Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Tonight I'm going to show you how to make 5 different dinners. First one we're going to start off, it's going to be a chicken casserole. I'm using 4 chicken breasts. I'm going to use 3 pounds of baby potatoes, Fiesta blend cheese, roughly 2 cups, these broccoli florets, I'm only going to use about half the bag, half an onion, and half a pound of bacon. I cooked it in my microwave, and then I'm going to use heavy whipping cream. Do not use half and half. Heavy whipping cream makes a world of difference. My spices are garlic powder, onion powder, and garlic salt. Salt and pepper are my go-to. I'm going to use this. The baking dish is a 9 by 13 that I'll be using. So I'm just going to go ahead and chop up all these baby potatoes. There's ones that are really tiny in there. Those ones I might leave whole, but the ones that are a bit bigger, I'm going to chunk in fourths. Just that way they're roughly bite size. Go ahead and fill your pan with all those potatoes. And then I'm going to add my first layer of seasoning. I'm only going to show you one seasoning, but I added all of the seasonings I previously showed you. Then I added a little bit of cheese, and now I'm going to go ahead and dice my chicken. I'm going to put it in about bite-sized chunks. I am taking the little fat off. That you can see that little pile over there. I'm taking the fat off. You don't have to. I just don't like the way it tastes or the texture of it. So I'm just going to chunk my chicken in bite-sized pieces and then distribute it evenly. And I'm going to just put all 4 chicken breasts into the baking dish. And next I'm going to go ahead and add my onion. You could use a whole onion. I probably should have looking back, but this one was still just enough, so it's fine. Then I'm going to go ahead and add my pre-cooked bacon. If you don't have bacon, you can make it, you can also get bacon crumble. That works too. I'm going to add my second layering of all of my seasonings. Don't forget the salt and pepper. And then, of course, all the garlic powder, garlic, salt, and onion powder. And you can never have too much pepper. Just my opinion. Then I'm going to go ahead and go in with another layer of cheese. And this layer is going to have a bit more cheese than the first layer. And you can add as much or as little cheese as you want. I personally like a little bit on the heavier side of cheese. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and add in some broccoli. These little bite size are perfect. There's some bigger chunks that I'm saving to cut. So I'm going to cut those, and then I will add all the broccoli. And then for the heavy whipping cream, I added a smidge over 2 cups. It really wouldn't hurt if you added like 2.5 cups. So anywhere between 2 cups and 2.5 cups, and just drizzle that all over. And guys, this meal doesn't look like it's, I want to say it doesn't look like it's like a really delicious dinner, but I promise you it is. I didn't think it would have been that good. And as soon as I made it and we all tried it, everybody in the family loved it. And they said, this is definitely a dish I'd like to try again. So, and as you can see, all the heavy whipping cream is at the bottom, and it just makes this really creamy texture. I bake it for an hour on 350, and look at the outcome. Beautiful and absolutely delicious. All right, guys, the next meal I'm making with this pure Angus steak is going to be, it's a chuck roast. It's going to be pot roast is what we're making. Now, even though I'm chopping my celery first, I'm actually going to be putting in the potatoes, which you'll see in just a second. But I'm using about 3 to 4 stalks of celery, and you can use as many or as little as you want. This is just how much I'm using. Then I'm going to chunk all these baby potatoes in. I'm using 3 pounds of potatoes, and the ones that are bigger, I'm cut into fourths. There's a few potatoes in there that are a bit bigger, and then some are really tiny that you don't even need to cut. So then I'm adding in all the celery, and then I'm going to use a full bag of baby carrots, and I'm just chunking these in half. You can do them into thirds, but half is fine. You could probably even leave them whole if you wanted. And then I'm going to go in, after I do all my carrots, I'm just going to go ahead and give it a stir. Oh, and you know what? I almost forgot my onion. I'm so glad I remembered my onion, because actually my husband's the one who said, did you put onion in that? No, I didn't, but I will. And I only used half. Once again, I probably should have used the whole thing. But I added my onion in, and then I go ahead and give it a stir so that way everything is just nice and come together. Now, I'm going to get ready to season it. And then I add my water, but looking back, I probably should have added my water first. That way I didn't wash all the seasoning off of the veggies, but it's okay. They're still in there, so it's fine. But I'm using regular salt and pepper, and then garlic powder, garlic salt, and onion powder. And I just give that a good go. And even though I'm putting it on the vegetables, I want them to be nice and coated and really flavorful. I'm going to also season the meat the same exact way. See, this is where I add in a cup, and I ended up adding a cup and a half of water. And then when I put my meat in, I go ahead and season it with the same seasoning. Sometimes I like to save out a little bit of that onion and just put it on top of the meat for extra flavor. Wasn't really thinking about it this night, but I usually do that. And then I go ahead and press all that in together in the meat after I add in all the good seasonings. And that way it just kind of just soaks in a little bit better. Then I go ahead and add it on the high heat. I cook it for 7 hours. And what I love about crock pots is the smell. It smells up the whole house, but in a good way. It makes the house smell so good. And in Instant Pot, you just don't get that smell. Guys, look at this. Oh my word, isn't that delicious? Oh my gosh, and look at how tender this meat is. Now, usually when I get it, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to serve it right up with all the veggies, but I like to doctor mine up, and what I mean by that is I like to smash the carrots and all the vegetables together, the potatoes, and here comes the money shot right there. You smash it up, and then you smash it up, and then you put butter and a little extra salt and pepper, and it's delicious. All right, so this one, I'm pretty sure everybody has made spaghetti, but key to making spaghetti is when you boil the water, you want to make sure the water is completely boiling before you ever add in the noodles. And you also want to add salt into your water. That way it adds plenty of flavor. Did I just say plenty of flavor? I meant plenty of flavor. I just can't talk right now. Pouring more of the water out before the noodles. It's just because the sink fills up with that water, and I don't want the noodles to be setting in all that like sink water essentially. All right, so then in a separate pan, I'm sorry that my screen was blurry, that little shot, but in that pan I put some olive oil in there, and now I'm going to dice up half of a white onion. It could be white or yellows. I'm just using what I have on hand. And I'm going to go ahead and saute these mushrooms and the onion in there. And of course, it just gives it more flavor, and I love, love, love onion. I don't know if I said that already in here. I think I did. And make sure your oil is hot before you add any veggies in whatsoever. Then I go ahead in with my go-to seasonings. And I just sprinkle in the salt, pepper, garlic powder, garlic salt, and onion powder. And I give those a little stir, and I saute them. And then I add my Prego roasted garlic and herb spaghetti sauce. And I just go ahead and pour it right on in there. And then I just let it get hot and let it bubble for about a minute or two. And then I go ahead and I give that a nice stir. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment and add parsley flakes, but I'm going to really quick attend to my noodles. I put them back in the pan, and I added some extra butter in there, and now I'm stirring all the noodles so that way you add the butter, so one, there's flavor, and secondly, you don't want your noodles sticking together and getting all like gummy. So there's the parsley that I love so much, and I really do love the flavor of parsley. It just seems like you have to add kind of a lot to get the flavor. So then everything is ready to go. I dish up some noodles in a bowl, and even though my bowl is not in this shot, you'll see it in just a second. But I go ahead and add some of that yummy sauce, and then what is spaghetti without Parmesan cheese? Look at that. So delicious, guys. All right. So this night I am making those Johnsonville. They're sausages. They are so good. They're filled with cheese. So I'm going to make that, rice, and some veggies. So the first thing I do is I turn my pan on, and I am melting some butter. Then I'm going to make sure every single grain of rice is coated in butter before I add my liquid. So that's what I'm doing right here. And this makes a difference if you don't make sure they're coated. Meantime, I will be putting my oven to 350. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the chicken broth with the less sodium. It's just a little less salt. And if you always need the salt, you can always salt it. So when it comes out, so give it a quick little stir, and then you're going to want to wait until it's boiling. And as soon as it starts boiling, put your lid on and then put the timer on for 20 minutes on a lower heat, and then it'll be done. So these cheddar brats, or they're like hot dogs or sausages, they're more like sausages. I'm going to put them on the baking sheet, and basically in the oven they're going to go, and that's pretty well it. Those are pretty simple to make. But I'm going to add my veggies at the same time. So all I do on a baking sheet is I add my green beans to one of the baking sheets, and then the squash and zucchini to my other baking sheet. And guys, also you might want to cut a little thicker pieces than on the thin side, because if they're too thin, they almost disappear. Like the thinness, they're like, you think, oh, this is a good size, but then they're like paper thin, and it's just not happening. I don't know. So these sizes that I'm chunking them, that's about the perfect size. And then they cook faster that way too. Just not too thin, not too thick. So I want to put a little layer of olive oil down. Go ahead and then add all the squash and then the zucchini. And then we're going to doctor them up along with the green beans. So at this point, we're going to add more olive oil, that extra virgin olive oil on top of them. And then we're going to go in with all the seasonings. You guys should know my go-to seasonings by now. So we're going to add all those in, and then we'll go ahead and just give them a light stir, like kind of mix them around. Just use your hands as fine. And just make sure that your oven is preheated to 350, and then they'll all go in at the same time, and they'll cook for about 20 minutes. It might be about a minute or two less, just because I'm going off the time of my rice, and I just set the timer for 20 minutes, and they were done, 20 minutes time. And let me show you guys. This meal was not only healthy, but it's delicious. And here comes the money shot right now. Oh my gosh, this meal I will definitely have again. So good, guys, so good. All right, for the next meal that we'll be having is enchilada night. All right, if you guys are not making enchiladas this way, I'm so sorry, because you're missing out. First step, preheat oven to 350. Next, go ahead and get your baking dish to, it's going to be a 9x13, that's what I'm using, but it doesn't really matter what baking dish you're using, that's just the largest I have. Next, I'm going to put in some enchilada sauce into the baking dish, and in a minute, I'm going to evenly coat the bottom of it. You'll see that in just a second. And then I put some enchilada sauce in a bowl. Then I fill the other bowl with cheese. Don't worry about getting too much cheese, because it will all be used, guaranteed. None of it's going to go to waste. Now, there is a little secret to my enchiladas that you guys cannot forget this step, and if you forget this step, they won't come out the same. Those tortillas, you need to heat in the microwave for approximately 30 seconds for them to be nice and warm, kind of flimsy. Then at that point, you drench it in the enchilada sauce, add as much cheese as you want, and since these are cheese enchiladas, you may not want to be stingy with the cheese. And then go ahead and add as little or as much green chili, and then that's it. You just wrap it up, and then the part that's I'm holding together, you just point that side down. That way they don't come open. So we're going to do one more of them. Going to make sure it's heated. Dip both sides. Make sure it's fully covered. And in the end, you'll see why they need to be fully covered, because there's not a lot of enchilada sauce left. But that's not the only reason. By covering them, it gets them to have like a really moist, delicious flavor while they're cooking. So you fill, wrap, and I actually had to get another baking dish because I made so many. And see, you can see there's not much sauce left in the pan, but I'm going to go ahead and use a spoon and just try to cover them as best as I can. And now would be a really good time to add black olive or a little bit of green onion on them right after layering it with cheese. But since I don't have it, I'm just going to use cheese, and I'm going to bake it on 350 for about 25 minutes. And one thing I do actually like doing is getting romaine lettuce, and I like shredding it and putting it on top of my enchilada. That is really good. It's a nice cool taste to the spicy enchilada that you're eating. All right, so check this out, guys. Here's the money shots. Look how beautiful, and they're bubbling, they're nice, and oh my gosh, this meal was delicious. Normally I serve this with beans and rice, but tonight I had a Mexican corn blend that I just threw in the microwave real quick, and I added it to my meal. And here it is. Guys, if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments below and let me know what your favorite dish was. Thank you so much. Please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.